Look, if you ignore this institutional shift, you risk getting left in the dust during the next crypto cycle. And here's the twist. The very players who called Bitcoin a speculative, polluting fad are now the ones leading the charge. By the end of this, you are going to understand exactly what this multi-trillion-dollar U-turn means for your own strategy. Okay, so to really get how big of a deal this is, we've got to rewind the clock just a little bit. Because it wasn't that long ago, just a couple of years back, that the official stance from Wall Street's biggest names wasn't just skeptical, it was openly hostile. I mean, just take a look at this. This was Bank of America's official take on things. Their global research team basically called it a pure gamble and even took a shot at its environmental record. The message to their massive client base was crystal clear: stay far, far away. And you know, it wasn't just them. Vanguard, an absolute titan of the investment world, was saying the exact same thing. Their CEO came right out and said, nope, no Bitcoin ETF for us. He basically put it in the same bucket as gold, saying it had no real value and no place in a serious portfolio. This was the brick wall crypto was up against. But then, everything changed. In just the last few months, that entire wall has completely and utterly crumbled. What we are witnessing is a genuinely shocking and incredibly fast reversal from these very same institutions. And get this, here is the proof, plain and simple. Bank of America went from only speculation to now issuing official guidance saying a 1 to 4% slice of a portfolio in digital assets could, and I quote, appropriate. I mean, that is a complete 180. And believe me, this isn't just some memo they put out. This is action. The firm's investment office has given the green light for its advisors to actually recommend and put client money into the biggest spot Bitcoin ETFs out there. We're talking about the real deal, funds that actually hold Bitcoin, from giants like BlackRock and Fidelity. And it's the same story over at Vanguard, maybe even more dramatic. After flat out saying they don't go towards Bitcoin, their platform now literally has a buy button for major crypto ETFs. This isn't some subtle change in tone. It's a direct invitation to their millions of retail clients. The floodgates are creaking open. So why does this all matter so much? It's all about the scale. You have to understand the sheer size of what's happening. We are not talking about a small pile of cash here. We're talking about trillions, with a T, of dollars that were completely locked out of this asset class until now. So let's put some numbers on this. Let's start with Bank of America. Their wealth management divisions control over $2 trillion. $2 trillion. Until January of this year, none of that money was officially allowed to touch Bitcoin. That has now fundamentally changed. Okay, now let's scale that up. If you thought $2 trillion was big, hold on. Vanguard, they represent a mind-boggling $11 trillion in assets under management. That is a pool of capital just as massive as BlackRock's, and it's also being unlocked. I really don't think most investors have processed the implications of this yet. And, you know, it's not just about the raw numbers. It's about the army of people who manage that money. Bank of America has over 15,000 wealth advisors. Can you just imagine being one of them for the past few years? Your clients are asking about crypto, and company policy forces you to say no. Well, now, that script has totally flipped. They are now actively encouraged to suggest it for a long-term plan. So, the big question is, why now? What suddenly changed to make all this happen? Well, a huge piece of this puzzle is that the regulatory storm clouds that have been hanging over Washington, D.C. for years are finally starting to part. The whole vibe from the SEC, from the new leadership, is completely different. The language isn't about obstruction anymore. Instead, you're hearing them talk about using their authority to drive forward and embrace innovation. That is the exact green light Wall Street has been waiting for. And it's not just talk, it's turning into actual action. Right now, lawmakers and industry experts are hammering out legislation, like this Clarity Act, that's designed to do one thing: create a stable, predictable rulebook for crypto. Regulatory clarity is actually on the way. Now, does this mean every little detail is perfectly ironed out? Of course not. We are still so incredibly early in this game, and with that comes complexity. But these aren't roadblocks anymore. They're more like the growing pains you'd expect when a brand new asset class gets plugged into the global financial machine in real time. And here's a perfect example of that, staking yield. It's a core concept in crypto, right? You lock up your assets to help secure the network, and in return, you get rewards, usually more of that same crypto. It's a huge source of returns, especially for assets like Ethereum. But for a giant institution, there's a really important question. How do you classify that reward for tax purposes? The IRS is still trying to figure out if staking rewards are good income or bad income for these massive financial products. These are the nitty-gritty details they're working out right now, which just goes to show you how new all of this still is. And developments like this are unfolding literally every single day. If you want to stay ahead of the curve with the kind of deep dives and analysis we do here at Crypto Global News, make sure you go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button. So let's just wrap it up with this thought. The institutions, they aren't coming anymore. They are here. The multi-trillion-dollar pools of capital are now unlocked. The regulatory rulebook is being written as we speak. So the only question that's left is, are you positioned for what comes next?
Stay ahead in the crypto market. Subscribe now for the latest global news and updates.